Oh, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to you too.
Thank you. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you. I had a long day and I'm looking to settle in and go over some evidence together. How are you?
I'm doing well too. Um, it's been it's been a busy week. I've been hearing from everybody this week that they've been very busy this week. Um,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of elections going on around the nation still, and I don't know if you saw the news today in Chicago. The expressway was blocked going up to O'Hare because
Wow.
protesters were protesting all the way up, and it created tremendous traffic across the city today.
I bet that's what they're designed to do, I guess. Did you hear in the news that the San Francisco Bay Bridge, both directions were blocked?
I did.
Protest?
I heard that too.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's got to be no easy thing to do. So, and welcome to anybody in the audience who may have joined us.
Yeah, welcome everyone.
We are looking forward to, should we go over some of our public agreements?
Yeah, let's do that. And if you're just getting into the audience, feel free to say hi. Feel free to introduce yourself, share what brings you here.
For me, it's what brings me here is just the need to connect with others on some of the news that I've been observing for the last 6 months coming from Gaza. It's been it's just made me want to really dig into maybe the backstory of what we're seeing. And so, yeah, I find that just paying attention is better with others who are paying attention and community, and really appreciate the space that that BA is kind of hosting with the technology and with just all of the facilitation experience, creating a place where ideas can be shared in safety and where we can all learn together. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here together too. I really value our ability to tune in together like this and together and explore so much. So let's take a look at group agreements together. Pull these up. These are a few recent agreements that we've seen that we used the other day in one of our groups, and I thought these would be nice to use.
Give every idea its fair hearing. That's a good one.
Yeah, actually, let me pull up. Actually, you know what? Let me actually 1 sec. Let me actually pull up. We've been working on. I want to show this document because we've been working on a larger document about agreements, and I think it's been getting more and more organized. And And so I want to share this because we've been talking about it a little bit, and some of it is we've been working on for a bit, and I want to share. Let me just share the whole thing. Because this is what like what I shared before was something that we've been working on with a group, but I also what I really want to focus on actually is this. So I think the core of what we've been working on are these ones here. Would you like to read these, or would you like me to read some?
I can go on a few. It says, "Give every idea its fair hearing."
Yeah, yeah. And what, like, when you hear that, Tim, what do you notice?
Well, it just sounds very democratic. Like, it's inclusive and yeah, open to what people may bring.
Democratic, inclusive, and open to what people may bring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll read the next one. Make sure everyone gets home safely and justly. This, what do you notice about this one?
That it might be about helping people contribute in a way that feels authentic, and that we don't, we welcome everybody's style of communication, maybe.
Yeah. So that we're welcoming everyone's style of communication, and that everyone gets home safely. We've been considering the justly lately, because we've been thinking about situations where, like, we're trying to make sure some people get home safely, but then we don't make sure that everybody gets home safely.
You mean everybody who deserves to get home safe?
Well, no, not everybody that deserves it. Yeah, that's like, do you think this? I mean, that's an interesting question. Do we
Who
think
decides?
it leads? Yeah, like, So, do you think that presents any puzzles for us in these?
Well, I mean, if somebody comes in who doesn't want to talk about their ideas and just wants to shut down the conversation, maybe that's treated differently than somebody who is trying but says something
Mm,
offensive, and they didn't mean it, right? So,
yeah, I hear you. Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that is a great point. And we facilitate in that way.
yeah.
And that, like, that we want to try to, like, we sometimes have to make sure that this is a good experience for people, as many people as possible. And so if somebody is like, for instance, trying to make conversation really hard, ask that person if they want to meet us afterwards, but take a pause if they're able to. If it feels like it's too hard to talk with them and work with them.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds good. And you want me to read the maybe
Go
one
for it.
more?
Yeah.
There used to be just 3. Now there's a longer list, so I didn't wanna, take too much time without getting to the content for tonight.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, I think we can go for the first ones. And if people are, like, extra, like, thinking about it, we've got some ones down below that, like, we've been pondering. Not even saying.
We can even put a link, in
Yeah,
the chat
if
for
folks
anybody who
wanna,
wants to
we
read
can
more.
definitely do that.
But, I'm just gonna read one more, which is the
Oh, sorry.
mutual involvement.
Mhm.
And what do you notice about mutual involvement? What does that make you think of?
This notion that, like, that it's something that we're all working on together. And so like we can ask ourselves, is everybody like, how much are people involved as a group? Like, how much are we all involved? Are we working on this with each other?
Does it feel inclusive? Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And even in like a modest sense. So
Sounds
yeah,
good.
should we explore our content a little bit? Let's see. Our subjects.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's good to check in with the agreements every now and then. Do we want to look at the Prezi and we'll sort of look at the way what we've got to talk about, and maybe we can add on to it. I don't know if we put our Palestinian cultural context of film and food and music, but we can always
So maybe we should I think there's been three major points that that we were like three thematic, like I guess we could say a little bit about the themes of tonight, as it were. So one theme I think the first theme that we talked about was Palestinian culture.
Yeah, I think it was the end of Ramadan, and we were trying to come up with ways to sort of echo what we've been noticing in the news. So we've got some really interesting, not just noticing, but like pro-Palestinian organizers in my area have included the one about food and music as a kind of resistance, like a way of celebrating despite the atrocities going on against their culture. Yeah. So there's like hardly any university buildings that have been untouched, like by missiles and bombs, and there's not too many hospitals left, and I mean, just how could folks be singing and celebrating with making circle cakes and whatnot as part of their tradition?
Yeah. So this notion of how can that there's this horrific tragedy going on every day, and yet I hear you say they're making circle cakes and they're dancing and they're trying to keep, and perhaps I personally wonder, like maybe they're trying to keep alive a spark of life. Is that what you're? I might be adding that, but and that I think was kind of the thematic of our learning today, right? Like that was, we've talked about this too with Jay, who will be passing through tonight, and that I think I've heard this from a number of folks in the group at different times, and this is people in general, that they're disappointed in terms of how the media portrays a lot of grim death in all this, and shows the death which they need to. They're not doing that enough, and even so, they don't show the life of Palestine, and that's something that, as you're saying, also that this has been an important thing. So I think that's our first theme. What are the other themes we've been exploring? And if you're in the audience, feel free to share the themes if you've been thinking about them too.
Well, I know we've got some conversation from UNRWA spokespeople who are responding to their budget cuts, and we've got responses, or we've got testimony from healthcare workers like surgeons who have come back from 2 or 3 weeks in one of the remaining hospitals that that just kind of really opened their eyes to new levels of cruelty. But yeah, we can look at that, and then we've got something else, something about famine, right?
Yeah, and so we're going to be also talking about the famine in Palestine.
And of course, UNRWA stands for United Nations Relief and Workers Aid. Yeah, and we're going to go into a little bit about the original setup of that organization, because they're the ones that just got their funding cuts for supposedly being helping the attacks on October 7th.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of things that we can explore tonight, and it's very, very exciting.
You want to open it with a clip from the movie Tales of the Three Jewels, a 1990 film from Gaza?
That would be great if you show that. And I actually have here, while we're getting that ready, I also have this. All
right, can you see?
Oh, you are. Yes.
Shall we get into it? Why are you doing something else?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And for folks in the audience, feel free to share what you notice.
And this is a 1990 film shot in Gaza, and we're just going to look at a first few minutes to kind of set the scene, which is going to kind of like give us a taste of what life is like there. And of course, Gaza Strip is on the Mediterranean, and that's what we're looking at now. And we won't watch the whole movie, of course, just the first few minutes, but we could put a link in here. It's called Tale of Three Jewels. And yeah, I'll just, without further ado. Can you hear okay? Can I ask, what are you noticing so far? Is this a good time to?
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed this man on the horse, and I noticed he rides with the horse, and then he hands the child the gun, and the child takes the gun and he puts it on the palm tree.
Yeah. And I think he's in the process of coming out of a dream, because we saw his clothing shift. Like first he was sleeping on a bed, and then he's sleeping on the grass with a different, like all dressed and ready to engage the soldier. So that was like a clue, I think. but yeah, we can go back to it. But I really was struck.
So you're saying you're noticing that he's a soldier, or that he's specifically martial.
I think
And
he's
remember, not everybody in the audience has watched the movie, so
right. No, I haven't seen it but once or twice too, and I'm just noticing that his clothes changed in like the first scene when we saw him lying on his back, the boy, and then he gets up all dressed in a sweater, and I think something shifted there. You know?
I'm trying to remember. So you said there's something shifted there, because there was the sweater, but then before,
Yeah,
I'm hearing that you saw something different.
yeah, his clothes shifted, like his whole, like I think we were watching him in his bedroom, like sleeping, and then we were watching him in the dream that he's having. But yeah, I'll go back to it. And also just he's looking, or is engaging with his mother and sister, and just the imagery that I'm seeing is, I think, indicative of what the person making the movie is trying to tell, a little snapshot of the culture. Anyway, I'll go back to it.
Yeah. Oops.
Here we go.
انت حبيبي، انت ذكر الحمام اللي بئن لانت الحمام. يوسف حبيبي، قرب يخلص منع التجول. يلا لقيت اخوك يكون مات من الجوع.
انتوا كل يوم بتقعدون في عز حلمي، اتركيني خليني انام واشوف اخر حلمي.
يلا تعال احكي لي شو شفت.
كنت اخترت لي شان، انت واختي. انا جيت تركت من تحت النخل. طار الحمامتين اللي كنت ترزيم عشان، وعتمت الدنيا. وجه فراش كتير حوالي القنديل واحترق بناره. سبت ادرج من على النار لما وصلت النخيل.
اجري على البحر جيب مي. يلا هاي الاكل جاهز، ارمح. دير بالك بديش مشاكل، ابعد عن الجيش.
Yeah. So what else did you notice there in the rest of that?
Yeah. I noticed, well, I first noticed that when he came back, she said that he was a dove, or he was waiting for his female dove. Was that it that she was saying, that he was waiting for his female dove? And then I noticed that she was cooking, and that the food that she made included 2 different kinds of cauliflower, and they were both different colors. And I noticed that there was a metal like a metal cooking surface that had the oil in the middle.
Yeah.
And
it was almost like
I saw the oil frying.
Yeah, it reminded me of like a camp setup, the way that the oil was being heated by the fuel that was coming in from a line in a tank. It was like very primitive, and just made me wonder what kind of hey Jay.
Hi Jay, welcome.
We just finished a movie clip. Sorry, we're just talking about that. Just as an introduction to setting the place of Palestine or of Gaza in the 1990s. People cooking with with gas tanks rather than like appliances, very very primitive, and just the look on her face when she reminded him to stay away from the army.
Yes, that was that was kind of a decisive piece there, because then afterwards, as he was walking through the corridor, you could see there was somebody in a Jeep that looked very martial.
Yeah. So it just gives a nice, like in 3 minutes, you get like a real flavor for the people and maybe a little bit about what the movie's about. So
yeah, just I wanted to share this, and Jay, I must let everybody know that Jay actually was an inspiration for today, in the sense that Jay, I think, was one of the first people in the group who was talking about looking at Palestinian culture. And so
should we put a link to the movie?
Let's share a link here.
I don't know if I can access the comment.
I've got it. I'm going to put here. So yeah, here's a link, and
I can't wait to watch the rest of it.
Yeah, and so we wanted to start with that a little bit. And are there any puzzles arising for folks? Are there any puzzles?
Do you want to look at the singing, like another cultural sort of kick us off with a few more cultural examples? Or
yeah, let's take okay, sure. I think you sent me this, Tim, recently. This was oh wait, no, this is the same. I think this is the same clip as before. Do you want to share a clip, Tim? Actually, the one I've got actually is a sub clip, I think, of the one we just watched.
I can probably do that. Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up here. And where are you? Share screen. This was filmed last week, or maybe.
سلام لغزة سلام 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 لكل العيون الحزينة تفيض دموعها بأسا وعزا سلام سلام لغزة سلام سلام لغزة كل العيون الحزينة تفيض دموعها بأسا وعزا سلام سلام لغزة سلام سلام لشعب أمين عنيد بسهل خزاعة يلم الحصيد وحين يصد وحوش الحروب يشيع في كل يوم شهيد ويصمد في وجه كل الخطوب بعزم وفخر وبأس شديد فقد علمته قضايا الشعوب بأن الحديد يفل الحديد. سلام لغزة، سلام 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 لكل العيون الحزين تفيض دموعها بأسا وعز. سلام سلام لغزة، سلام. سلام لغزة خلف الحدود بصبر وعزم لتمحي القيود. لطفل قضى تحت قصف المباني، لأم تعاني وشاب يقول تضج دماؤه بالعنفوان. ويعلن فوق عيون الزمان ويفرض فوق الركام انتصار. لغزة شعب يفك الحصار. سلام لغزة، سلام 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 لكل العيون الحزينة تفيض دموعها بأسا وعز. سلام سلام لغزة، سلام. سلام سلام لشط رفح وفي بيت لاهيا ودير البلح. وللبرتقال لحوض المغازي يزارع أرض بفجر سرح. يشد الخضار رغم أنف الجنود وصياد بحر تحدى الرعود. سلام لشعب عزيز مقاوم يقدم درسا بعلم الصمود. سلام لغزة، سلام 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 لكل العيون الحزينة تفيض دموعها بأسا وعز. سلام سلام لغزة، سلام سلام لغزة، سلام 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 لكل العيون الحزينة تفيض دموعها بأسا وعز. سلام سلام لغزة، سلام.
Yeah, I couldn't stop that. Sorry.
I didn't think you should really.
I mean,
I
oh my
just
God.
let that play. I thought that we should just let that play out long.
Yeah.
And I think we made the right choice on that.
Yeah.
I think that was good.
What did you notice going on there in that video? It's a music video like no other.
Yeah. The first thing I actually noticed was on the side of the window that it said, what was it? The Edward Said Conservatory. I don't think I've got the name exactly right, but it said something about Edward Said and that it was a conservatory. And that occurred to me at first. And then I noticed also
Jabalia Girls Choir was the name of the group. Jabalia.
Yeah, and I noticed they were in the midst of a wreck there, that the buildings were split open. You could see steel and concrete, and yet they were singing with their hearts for peace.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about all the children that they've lost and they're defiantly singing amongst the rubble, it's just, you just can't, I just couldn't imagine, bringing, but I feel like maybe they have to do that just to, for their own sanity and humanity's sake. And I noticed that Jay had a nice comment from a few minutes ago.
Yeah. Yeah, Jay says, wow, this is lovely.
It is. And before then, he said Palestine has such a beautiful culture.
Oh, yes.
And people.
Let me show that too.
and I'd love to
Actually,
be.
oh, sorry, I apologize. Sorry.
Oh, he just said he's busy. I don't know if he's still here, but
No, Jay just said just now, I noticed that salam was often repeated.
yeah. And what were those messages on the paper? The two words that were side by side. I wonder.
Can you show those again?
I'd have to stop the. I could probably if go find them.
Or maybe there's a translation
Yeah.
from that. What else did folks notice? I also noticed that the woman that was singing, the older woman, that she had a tear. I think I saw a tear on her face.
Yeah. I think that one right there. You see that? I don't know how to translate that.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know enough Arabic to be certain to say.
I'm wondering if it was the same. Yeah, I think it's the same one. Same message. Yeah. Anyway, guessing it was
We could
just.
Oh, go ahead.
Maybe there's a.
Well, this is a puzzle, right? Like we're wondering. We're already getting to the puzzles. This is definitely a puzzle. We can think about this puzzle. Are there any other puzzles that anyone's share? So the puzzle is, what are the words on that?
Mm-hmm.
And
all the comments are in Arabic.
I wonder if we go to, say, a website like Ecosha to search it.
Halloween greetings. Halloween.
Let me see.
Salam is greetings, but I was pulling from. Yeah, I don't have to share my screen, but I was just pulling from some of the comments on the Facebook page. And I think somewhere in the explanation, it was just a greetings from the children's choir. Greetings from the children of Gaza. I mean, not sure what else they need to say, huh?
That's that you saw something about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I noticed on this website, African choir, sheet music, and choir brings music and hope to children in Gaza. But I think that we may just not find it out. It's just a kind of mystery for now. We can keep thinking about it, though. I'm sure there's another way we can trade. Well, I suppose you know the name of the choir, right?
Yeah, I'm just reading the email that it was sent, and basically it's the Jabalia Girls Choir singing.
How do you spell that?
Jabalia. Then they're singing for hope for a future of undeniable freedom yet to come. And Jabalia is in the north of the Strip.
Is there so?
And they're singing in sincere in their sincere.
Oh, I see. There's something about here.
It was shot in Jabalia on April 4th and 5th at the end of Ramadan to celebrate that Eid, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at this, and I see that, there's stuff. I'm finding stuff too, but yeah. Okay, so we have the children's choir. And Salam is often repeated. Was there anything else from that we noticed that we want to consider? Or
I mean, did they seem like they were in the middle of a genocidal kind of crazy time in their life? I mean,
by their demeanor, like what was their point of view on their faces?
I mean, they just look so solemn and
should we bring back some of the images a little bit?
yeah.
You want to show the images again?
Yeah, like what do you see when you? I mean, it doesn't look like everybody's exhausted, but in some of the pictures in the news, when you see emaciated, starving children, that's not here.
Yeah, well, and one would never expect musicians to have to do that for a video that would be a national message of a people, ideally.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I would imagine, that's what I'm kind of, that's my point of view on it anyway. I don't know, but that's just what I think.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the background, there's people in the ruined building. You see that?
Yeah.
That's crazy. It looks like they're at a bombed out university.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, if your aggressors are bombing the hell out of your country, and then you show up in the middle of the destruction with a song, that's a pretty bold act of resistance, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, if you show up with a song where the word that's most often repeated is salam, as Jay was saying before.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful call for peace.
Yeah.
And children, no less.
Despite all that, right? Because these are the ones that you hear that the Israeli population gets taught in school that they're taught to not to like want to kill Jews or something. Like they're sort of dehumanized as future terrorists.
Yeah, and actually we talked about that a little bit earlier. Maybe it's time to bring up some of the UNRWA topics now.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
I think this is a good. Because we've been talking about UNRWA and we've been talking about UNRWA, and we were talking about before how there's this guide that was put out by UNRWA of all the facts and data about how UNRWA actually operates, as opposed to this is what we were reading about. And
should we look at the foreign
policy magazine?
Foreign policy article has some definitions about UNRWA and where it came from and got started.
Absolutely. Let me.
Because from there we can contrast that to what people are saying about UNRWA as reasons for canceling them.
Yeah, let's pull this up.
And this is like an internationally sanctioned organization that you're supposed to have like UN General Assembly deliberations about changes to this agency, and a few member countries are calling for their canceling, and that's what happened. It's kind of crazy.
It's so what I'm hearing you say is that it's something that's you believe it's something that's very much oriented as a staple of the United Nations, and that it's being undermined right now and destroyed. And so this is something that gets explored in this article from Foreign Policy magazine.
Yeah, it looks like they're an
Don't give up
institution.
on
Yeah.
Yeah, don't give up on UNRWA. The agency, which goes to great lengths to remain neutral, is Palestine's only hope. And by the way, if you're in the audience, feel free to introduce yourself, say hello, and feel free to to share what matters to you. So
You're welcome to come on the show and read with us.
Yeah,
We've got some paragraphs that we're going to cover here from this article.
Yeah, if you'd like to come on and read with us, as we read, feel free to read a paragraph. So this article, it says by Tiara Atai, an aid worker and writer who has worked in 15 countries for the United Nations and major non-governmental organizations. What are folks noticing? What do you notice already?
Oh, they forgot to bomb a few buildings. They left a few buildings standing.
This.
I see people walking in front of destroyed buildings, but the UNRWA, or UNRWA, as some people say, is somehow the facade is still standing.
Yeah, I imagine that if you bombed an UNRWA building and were directly doing it, that can be a war crime. I wonder. That's a puzzle for me. I would think it would be, though.
You mean like hospitals?
Like hospitals, but UNRWA is like a UN building. So why are you going to bomb a UN building? Like that's kind of like because what we could. This is a puzzle we could explore.
Yeah.
And I guess we could take a look at that. Like, what are the different buildings you can't destroy in the laws of war? Like, what's the list of them? I know we've taken a look at some of the promises before.
Once they
What?
They justify it by saying, there's terrorist tunnels underground, all the buildings, or, that some members of UNRWA were involved in the attack on October 7th, or at least that's what the allegations were. And so anything goes after they've pinned a target on you.
Yeah, so I'm hearing you say that like a common justification is that Hamas is living among a civilian group, so therefore the civilian group becomes in that model, the civilian group becomes a legitimate target. And I'm adding too one puzzle. What is the justification that that prevents UNRWA from getting bombed?
You mean like
yeah, I just put this up here.
Yeah. Justification.
Yeah, and I'm leaving that there for a bit. We don't need to. We can let go of that right now. I'm just putting that up as a puzzle that we might consider exploring.
Okay. Tonight. Cool.
And so should we keep going then?
Yeah, those are some big doors. That's what I'm noticing. Like you could pull a truck in there, like a delivery of supplies in there.
One thing I noticed is there's a silvery piece here going all the way down to here. I noticed the silvery thing here. I don't know what that is. It creates a puzzle though. Like, is that a
Oh,
vehicle or is it like
you see where it changes color towards the bottom?
right
And
here? Yeah, it does look like a tanker, doesn't it?
you see how it's like silver, but then when it gets down a little lower, right at around the ground
Yeah, it gets
plane,
dark.
it turns into a greenish kind of dirt. I'm thinking that's just what you can see through the building that's bombed out in the background, and you're seeing daylight in the background.
Oh, wow. Wow.
There's just not much of that building left.
That might be so. I
Yeah.
think you might be right about that.
And those are big doors. I mean, look at those fellows on bicycles. If they were to go back to that door and stand on it, I bet you they would be less than a third height of the door. So that tells me that you could park a tanker truck in those doors, and it would be like, if you think about relief aid, and moving water, tanker trucks of just food and water and supplies, medicine, they probably need to lock stuff up at night. And I bet you that's why those doors are so big, but I'm just guessing.
Yeah, it's interesting because I can still in my mind partially imagine it as a tanker truck, but I get a little bit confused when I look at this line right here. If you can see my cursor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyhow, I don't know. We may never know this one.
Shall we read a few excerpts?
Yeah. And it says, people walk past the damaged headquarters of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian refugees. UNRWA in Gaza City on February 15th.
Do you know who the refugees are? I mean, Palestinian refugees. From where? When?
Well,
are they refugees?
So that's another puzzle we want to put up.
Yeah, I hear settlement territory, and I hear settlements, territories, and refugees. A lot related to Palestine, and the more I look into it, the refugees go back a long way. So I'm just wondering which refugees now. It's kind of a devastating and deep story.
So, am I hearing the puzzle is now? I'm not hearing that the puzzle. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not hearing the puzzle is what caused Palestinians to be refugees. I'm hearing which Palestinian refugees are these?
Right. Because when so many of the original Palestinian population were displaced, lots of them went to other countries, but then a lot of them moved into the remaining Palestinian territories of the Gaza Strip and West Bank, and that was back in 1948. So yeah, it's like the people in Gaza now might be descendants of refugees. And when we're thinking about descendants and those time frames, we might read a little bit about when UNRWA began.
Yeah. And
why.
actually, we've got some primary sources that we could jump to on that a little bit later. I guess that actually, if we wanted to just jump to the original statement that made UNRWA from nothing, we could pull that up. There's an accompanying statement to it too, but let's just start with the foundational one, as it were. So,
and we also have an interview from an UNRWA spokesperson responding to funding cuts a few weeks ago.
Yes, actually, we could actually look at that too. After we look at the initial statement, maybe we do want to look at that. And
the Prezio?
Oh, I could bring we could look at the Prezi, or we could just I had the window open too.
From the actual article.
Yeah, but we'll go back to the Prezi in a little bit, too. We should jump back into it too. So, Resolution 194.
You want me to read that?
Yeah, go ahead.
The United Nations General Assembly adopts Resolution 194, resolving that refugees wishing to return to their homes and live at peace with their neighbors should be permitted to do so at the earliest practical date, and that compensation should be paid for the property of those choosing not to return and for loss of or damage to property which, under principles of international law or equity, should be made good by the governments or authorities responsible. And this was from the 40s, 1940s sometime.
Yeah, so
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, so that was, what do folks notice about this? Is there anything folks notice about this?
Well, they're talking about refugees wishing to return to their homes, and this predates the Nakba
Does
by like
well,
8 years or 7 years.
well, we're saying 1940s. What year exactly?
Oh, right. Not
So let's go
necessarily.
back. Let's go and take a look back at the foreign policy.
I thought it was 1940. Sorry, but yeah, it would have been probably a response, yeah, to the Nakba.
So, taking a look at this, it says, last month, Philip Lazzarini, the head of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, said that the agency had reached a breaking point after Israel accused 12 agency personnel of involvement in the October 7th, 2023 Hamas attacks. 18 states announced in January that they would suspend funding to UNRWA, including its two top donors, the United States and Germany. On Saturday, the U.S. Congress barred funding to the agency through March 2025. So, what are folks noticing? Feel free to share in the chat, and we'll also share what we're noticing here too, because we're all learning here together. So, oh, you go ahead.
I'm noticing a little cause and effect, like Israel accuses, 12 agency personnel of involvement in the October 7th Hamas attacks, and then 18 states announce, I'm not sure how many months later, but in January, that they would suspend funding for a long time. And two top donors, US and Germany.
Yeah, I'm noticing that the United States Congress barred funding to the agency through March 2025.
And was there even a report? I mean,
so that's a puzzle there. So yeah, what puzzles are folks seeing here? Are there any puzzles for folks? You were saying that, Tim, that, what was your question exactly again? I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just wondering, on what basis did the funding get suspended by all these member states? Including,
what was the basis?
Yeah.
Of the funding?
What was the basis of the withdrawal of the funding?
Withdrawal of the funding,
or suspending of the funding? Yeah. An accusation, or was there something more to it? I don't know. And I'm wondering, what does it take to pull funding? Because, UNRWA is an institution. It's been around for a long time. It's probably got a process to adjust the budget, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so what is the basis of the withdrawal of funding? What does it take to pull funding? That's another puzzle that we could be exploring tonight. Should we take a look at some of the puzzles we've brought up so far already tonight and see if any more puzzles come up yet, or and then maybe keep reading a little bit too?
Okay.
So the puzzles I've put down here tonight in the chat. One puzzle: what is the justification that prevents UNRWA from getting bombed? Another puzzle: which Palestinian refugees are these? Going back to those folks who were walking in front of UNRWA. And I noticed you were wondering that. And then, what is the basis of the withdrawal of funding? What does it take to pull funding?
And what is the mandate of UNRWA? Why are they so critical? Like, what, why don't we want to give up on UNRWA?
Yeah, I see there's also a couple of links here too. Let me share one of the links. So this is Philippe Lazzarini here. Let me see if I can make this a little bit larger for everyone.
He's the head of UNRWA?
According to Foreign Policy magazine, he's the head of UNRWA.
Mm-hmm.
As you were saying. Yeah.
What is he saying?
I'm just over 4 months in Gaza. There have been more children, more journalists, more medical personnel, and more UN staff killed than anywhere in the world during a conflict.
In recent times, I think. Probably not in early colonial days.
Yeah, how would one know? It's an interesting question, right? Like, it's definitely, like, I guess in those days there were no laws of war in the Crusades or whatever in the same way.
I read an account in the Caribbean when Columbus was setting up shop on the islands of Haiti and others, that they were killing at a rate of 600 per day, and then I compared that to the stats from Gaza, which were more like 300 per day, and I was like, wow, I can't imagine even worse than Gaza. But according to that entry, but that's another
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, where did you read that, or where was that from?
It was from Jason Hickel's The Divide, Global Inequality from Conquest to Free Market.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you get a moment, if anybody in the audience or anybody, if you find a link for that, feel free to share it in the chat. Yeah, and then the second paragraph says, "It is with profound regret that I must now inform you that UNRWA has reached a breaking point with Israel's repeated calls to dismantle it and the freezing of funding by donors at a time of unprecedented humanitarian needs in Gaza. Read my letter to the President of the UN General Assembly." So this is something that we could choose to read.
What do? Just click on the image and you can get the bigger text?
We could also, what's that?
can we read from his letter a little bit, or should we go
No,
back into the?
we could. I want to honor, though. We could also, right, because we asked what's the basis of the withdrawal of funding? What does it take to pull funding? So there was another link that we were also given that was from this article as well. I think that was the call to pull funding. So we might want to take a look at that too, to explore the question. Then we could bounce back here because it might also be here. What do you think? Should we look at this one first, or should we look at the?
I'm trying to contextualize who UNRWA is. Anything we can do to help people get a feel for their mandate, how important they are as an institution, like a lifeline.
Right. I wanted to honor the question you'd asked earlier because we were answering the question for a bit, and so
right.
And so like we certainly could look at this, and I'd be glad to. I just I also want and what we're looking for might be in here, so I'd also be glad to do that. I'm glad to. I'm just thinking there was also this puzzle that we were exploring too.
Right.
So either way, what do you think?
We can go back to the original question. It's probably a good idea.
So there was also, so here we go. So you're asking what was the source of, I think the question we asked was this. What was the basis of the withdrawal of funding? What does it take to pull funding?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this AP article. And by the way, anybody who wants to come and read out loud who's in the audience right now, feel free. I'll put a link in here today if somebody wants to come in and help us. If you want to read stuff, you're totally welcome to. There's a link if folks want to join. So document spells out allegations against 12 UN employees Israel says participated in Hamas attack. Would you like to read some, Tim?
Sure. The caption under the picture is pretty small, but I think I can read it.
Do you want me to? Yeah.
Oh, wait. Yeah, I can see it now. I just zoomed larger. AP News Director for Israel and the Palestinian territories, Joseph Federman, explains how the ongoing crisis between Israel and the UN agency responsible for Palestinian refugees could hit Gaza at a time of a massive humanitarian emergency. This is from January 29.
And this is a movie we could play. Do we want to try to play some, or do we want to just read the article? Do you have a preference? Which way should we explore?
Maybe play. Can it just play if you press it?
Yeah, let me make sure I'm going to share the sound really quickly. I'll just make sure of that. Okay.
Imagine an environment.
And then, of course, there's an advertisement here. So while we're waiting for the advertisement to play a little bit, maybe, do you want to read the opening paragraph?
Yeah, but you can skip the ad now if you want.
Oh, I can't. Okay, perfect.
Israel and the UN agency responsible for Palestinian refugees is heating up. Israel has released a document showing what it says are 12 UN employees who participated in the October 7th cross-border attack that triggered the current war in Gaza. The document says that 7 of these employees actually crossed into Israeli territory during that period, and that 2 of them were involved in the kidnapping of hostages taken into Gaza. The United Nations says it's taking these allegations seriously, and it's already dismissed a number of the people who appear in this document. But officials also point out that this is a tiny number, 12 people out of more than 13,000 people who work for the agency. The allegations have pushed a number of key donors, including the United States, to suspend funding to UNRWA, the UN agency. UNRWA says that without this money, it will be forced to shutter its operations by the end of February. UNRWA is the key provider of humanitarian aid into Gaza, and officials point out that if they are forced to stop operations, there's no one who can quickly fill that void. That would hit Gaza at a time of a massive humanitarian crisis.
That was a good sort of baseline description of what they do and why they're so important. Thank you for finding that. And you're on mute.
What are folks noticing about that? What do you notice?
Just that there was an accusation of UNRWA officials, 12 of them out of 13,000 employees involved in the attacks. That was the allegation. And so they pulled out so much funding that it might end up ending the organization. 13,000 employees, all with looking for work. It sounds devastating.
Yeah, 13,000 employees, and they pointed also to the famine there too, and the vital role of the famine. Did anyone notice anything else? Should we continue reading the article?
Yeah.
I'll take a paragraph here. And if you want to join, we put a link in there if you want to read something out loud or you want to share what you notice. Feel free to share it in the chat. Feel free to stop in and say hello.
Yeah, there's room for 3 of us on the screen.
Yeah. The allegations against staffers with the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees prompted the United States and several other countries to freeze funds vital for the body, which is a lifeline for desperate Palestinians in Gaza. The White House indicated that funding could be restored depending on the agency's investigation and subsequent actions. The UN condemned the abhorrent alleged acts and fired 9 of the accused workers, who include teachers and a social worker. 2 are reportedly dead, and the last is being identified. And then the last little bit that it says, and if you want to read this, Tim, just go for it.
The accusations come after years of tensions between Israel and the agency known as UNRWA over its work in Gaza, where it employs roughly 13,000 people.
Okay, so...
And I just want to mention one statistic I'd heard about unemployment in Gaza. It was like 50%. And I'm just, I've heard that people who do have jobs, it's because of UN aid and relief funded agencies and other government or sort of so-called government agencies, like especially in the West Bank, where there's like an assigned administrative organization, like the Palestinian Authority. And if you're lucky to have a job, it's probably with the Palestinian Authority. And that's in the context of like 50%, or now that the war has started or this conflict has started, 80% unemployment. I mean, so just think about how important 13,000 jobs are and how easily they just evaporated over some accusations.
Yeah. So I'm hearing from you, like the 13,000 jobs that you're saying, that's a lot of people, and that's a lot of people's livelihoods in a period where we're talking about the group of people who are protecting against a famine, who are providing social services and social work
Education.
and education and all these different things in this situation. And there's 50% unemployment there.
Or something like that. It's huge.
Yeah. And like when we're talking about unemployment being bad in the United States, right? Like
8% or something like that.
Yeah, it's so yeah, and for folks in the audience, feel free to share what you're noticing too. Let's come back a little. Oh yeah, go ahead, Tim.
I'm just curious, do you remember how they got started? Some kind of like resolutions that were
Yeah, so we were
effect?
looking a little bit at some of the resolutions earlier. I'm wondering if we want to we could actually there's a number of ways we could find them. I think the foreign policy is going to explore that in just a second.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have the primary sources too. So
Is that in the Prezi?
Yeah, I can bring it up in the Prezi actually too.
So I remember you cut some of the resolutions into the Prezi.
Yeah.
Yeah, 194. And,
yes, we've got this, and then we have 302 over here, and then actually
194 is just above, I think.
Yeah, 194 is right there. And then we've got the foreign. We also have a highlighted text from the foreign policy magazine too. We'll go back over here. I thought though in the foreign policy that they also, let's see, actually let's go back over here.
Just above that first Democracy Now! From March, they have the responses from UNRWA spokesperson tomorrow. I think that would be a good one to end on since it's getting kind of late.
Yeah, actually, yeah, let's go to that. I think that would be good. You want to go back to the Democracy Now! Is it this one? Yeah. Should we start from the beginning a little bit? Let me share this tab. I think let's see. Yeah, we can do that.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Norwich.
Despite the UN-backed report that found famine is imminent in northern Gaza, Israeli authorities informed the United Nations on Sunday that it will no longer approve the passage of any UNRWA food convoys into northern Gaza.
Yeah, I can see it. Maybe turn the volume up a little bit.
Speaking to reporters on Monday.
UNRWA are part of the problem, and we will now stop working with them. We are actively phasing out the use of UNRWA because they perpetuate the conflict rather than try and alleviate the conflict.
In response to the news, UNRWA General Philippe Lazzarini wrote in a social media post, quote, "This is outrageous and makes it intentional to obstruct life-saving assistance during a man-made famine. These restrictions must be lifted." UNRWA is the largest organization with the highest reach to displaced communities in Gaza. By preventing UNRWA to fulfill its mandate in Gaza, the clock will tick faster towards famine and many more will die of hunger, dehydration, and lack of shelter, he wrote.
The decision came as President Biden signed a $1.2 trillion appropriations bill that strips funding to UNRWA for the next year. The U.S. first suspended aid to UNRWA in late January when the Israeli government leveled allegations that 12 of the agency's 30,000 employees were involved in the Hamas attacks of October 7th. The unsubstantiated allegation prompted other top donors, such as Germany, the European Union, and Sweden, to cut funding to UNRWA, although a number of countries have recently announced their intention to resume funding. For more, we go to Amman, Jordan, where we're joined.
Yeah, and let's just pause there first, and let's share what we're noticing. What do you notice here?
Oh, that there's 30,000 employees. I thought the earlier article said 13,000, but
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, wow, that's a
they
lot
just
more.
said 30. Yeah.
30,000.
Hey, Dash.
Yeah, I see Dash is here.
Welcome.
Yeah, Dash, do you want to come on?
Dash asks, "Where's the link?"
Wait, I think we've got Dash backstage, actually.
Oh,
I'm just trying to make sure we can communicate first.
yeah.
Hold on.
Oh,
But as soon as I've got a good communication channel going, we can invite Dash to share what they're noticing, what he's noticing. Do we want to play a little bit more?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Should hear from the spokesperson.
By Tamara Arifai.
Mm-hmm.
She's spokesperson for the UN Palestinian Agency, UNRWA. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Tamara. If you can start off by talking about the significance of what the U.S. has done. President Biden signed off on a bipartisan law that dealt with a lot of issues, but among them, cutting off aid to UNRWA for the next year. And the U.S. is by far the largest funder of this UN Palestinian Relief Agency.
Thanks, Amy, and thanks as always for giving UNRWA this platform. The decision by Congress and consequently by the US government to stop funding to UNRWA this year is a huge blow. There is no sugarcoating. The impact on our finances is huge. And also the impact on the politics around UNRWA, seeing our largest donor and many times our closest partner withhold funding, which means withhold trust to UNRWA, is a huge blow to us. However, I also want to say that in parallel, several governments, European and non-European, have either much increased their funding to UNRWA or have given us money for the first time. Also, we're getting overwhelming individual support donations from $10 to $20,000 to our campaigns and our drives. And that speaks for a sentiment that is also galvanizing around UNRWA, around its role, and mostly around the fact that it is not possible to just decide to pull the plug on a UN agency. To the way a UN agency works, especially as UNRWA gets its mandate from the UN General Assembly, should be discussed at the General Assembly. It is not about one or two UN member states to decide whether UNRWA can continue working or not. This is a global decision. At the General Assembly is where we get an overwhelming vote of support. And that is where such a conversation should take place.
Yeah. So what are we noticing so far in this? And we have Dash, who's trying to get him in here. But what are we noticing? I see Tim, you shared in the private chat something that you're noticing. She said withholding funding equals withholding trust.
Yeah. That was like, I think in response to the accusations, like somehow it like took away some trust, and so they took
Mhm.
away some money.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hearing that that you notice that the taking away of trust and taking away of money are interconnected. I think, is that right? Did I hear you correctly?
That's just what I heard her say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that's how nonprofits work, NGOs. You know, when you have good relationships with donors, it's because, you know, they're counting on your mission to succeed, and so they're entrusting you with funding to get stuff done, I guess.
Yeah. Like fiduciary responsibility.
Yeah, and all of a sudden,
yeah.
they lost funding, so they lost all their trust. I think that the global community is questioning, or it like got caught in a question of trust and legitimacy or something because of the accusations. But then she said that a few countries are starting to reinstate their trust and funding. So that's interesting. Everybody's in a different place.
Yeah. So I heard her say that other countries were reinstating it too, and I even heard them say that that some countries, I think, that had never donated were donating, or donating more than they'd ever donated.
Yeah. That was
yeah.
good to hear.
Yeah.
And I also heard her say that.
What else? Should we play a little bit more?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, also, yeah, and I also see that that Oscar P 1922 in the audience says, it's who incidentally is my dad. It says, it's been established that Israel's claims are not true.
Thank you. Yeah. So the footage that we're looking at is from March, end of March, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And also,
yeah, I'm trying to remember what was the exact evidence that's been brought up about that. Should we pull? I can pull up. Let me. I'll search it a little bit and see what we can find. There was, yeah, if anybody in the audience wants to look up any evidence about that, that would be helpful too. Do we want to? We can look that up as well. What else? Should we play? Is there anything else anybody noticed from this, or is there else? Yeah.
I was hearing that she said that UNRWA gets their mandate from the UN General Assembly, and that's who decides the fate of this institution that's been around since the 50s. You know, people can't just pull the plug because an accusation, which is like what she was saying.
Yeah. What was her point? What was her point of view on that? Like, it was that, I think she said you just can't pull the. What did you say? You just can't pull the plug? Was that what she said, or what was it she said? I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I think it requires more deliberation because it's like they get their mandate from a international body that they need to decide together what the next step for UNRWA is in light of the accusations, and it sounds like they may not have had a chance to do that.
Yeah. And it's an interesting question because the UN is. That the UN's going to be reporting on this as well, right? Was that in the foreign policy article that we're looking at? That the
yeah, what's the date on that? Is that about the same time? or more recent?
Yeah, so I can see there's the last report here. I just looked up on UNRWA's website. Let me share this. So UNRWA has reports right now. So they make situation reports, but then we're looking for the UN General Assembly, I suppose. But this is interesting too. This is they visualized this. This is an accident, but what are you noticing here?
These are all the services that they provide.
Yeah, it looks like, well, it says confirmed IDP numbers. So what's an IDP if I search?
That's a good question.
That's a puzzle I know.
It's right up there with installation, IDPs and UNRWA installations since October
1,000. Oh, wait, 1,000 or 1,700,000 IDPs. So is that displaced person? Something displaced person, perhaps?
International displaced person?
Yeah, because I'm remembering how the number of people who have been displaced, right?
Totally, yeah. In some of the backstory of UNRWA in the foreign policy article, they talked about hundreds of thousands, like 750,000 displaced refugees as a result of the 1948 Nakba and in other countries. And that's, if we read that, we would see that one resolution sort of said they could come back, and then another resolution a year later said, oh, we need to help all those refugees in other countries, and maybe they'll stay there. That was 302, which kind of spelled out the mandates of UNRWA. I think that's how that went. And so what we're looking at here is like an updated or a recent snapshot, I guess, of all the services that they provide. Although I'm not seeing education on there, but I think they do that too.
Yeah, let me see if I can make this a little bit larger even. Because so it's a little bit tiny here. Yeah, do we want, let's see, they've got, there's more here on this stuff. Should I just go over the whole document maybe a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me see. I see Jay's here. Let's see if we let's just bring Jay on. Hello, or Dash.
Hey, Dash.
Hi, Dash.
Hey.
Welcome.
Good to see you. Yeah,
do you want
to?
Yeah. Sorry to talk over you. I'm sorry. Nice to see you too. Yeah, we're just exploring. We found this like infographic and all these things here about this is a report from UNRWA. And Tim and I were asking each other and asking everybody in the audience what we notice here. And what are you noticing on this?
Well, I just hopped on like not too long ago, so I'm not sure.
That's fair. Yeah, we're just trying to make heads or tails of this information too. That one thing that we could do that might be fun too is read some of the from the foreign policy. We've got those highlighted.
We can go back. You want to go back to that a little bit?
Yeah, maybe we can take turns reading that.
Yeah, let's
just
go
feel
back
a
to
little
that
bit more.
because we were kind of getting to an interesting place with that. And do you want to read out loud with us?
Yeah.
Should we start back at here? Start back at here again?
Yeah, which one is this?
And we can just, yeah. And if there's a quiet moment, maybe one of us just fills it up unless we pause. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Although Lazzarini has dismissed 10 of the employees, the other 2 are dead, and the UN promptly launched an investigation into the allegation. Most donor states have refused to resume funding until the investigation is finished. The European Commission, Sweden, and Canada have released some of their pledged funds, but the agency continues to exist hand to mouth amid the very real risk of being forced to shut its doors.
Yeah. You want me to go or
Somebody just take it. Yeah.
Dash?
Feel free.
Now that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has outlined his post-war plans for the Gaza Strip, which include closing UNRWA, the agency's future looks even more unstable. Yet to shutter UNRWA would be a betrayal of Palestinians. The agency, which provides essential services to 5.9 million Palestinian refugees, has been a stopgap for almost 75 years as the international community has failed to find a durable solution for Palestinians.
Yeah. So what are we noticing so far that we've just read? Is anyone noticing anything?
Well, I just heard that Netanyahu plans for closing UNRWA. So, I mean, whether this report shakes out, these allegations prove true about UNRWA staff, maybe 12 of them being involved in the October 7th attack, even if it turns out to be false accusation, he still plans to close them, despite the fact that they provide
what I'm hearing from you, what you think about it is that how you're interpreting it is that regardless of whether it's true or false allegations, Netanyahu's going to close it no matter, and that
yeah, that's what it sounds like.
I notice that the agency that she's saying the agency provides essential services to 5.9 million Palestinian refugees. Is there anything else anyone notices? Oh, go ahead.
That's a lot of people, and they've been doing that for like 75 years.
Yeah.
Because nobody else has found a durable solution. So they've been refugees for 75 years.
Yeah. Do we want to read a little more? Do we notice anything else?
Guess we could read some more. So the author says that something in UNRWA, which I worked for between 2019 and 2022, cannot solve the root causes of Palestinians' dispossession, but for decades it has managed to address the symptoms. It has also become Palestinians' only effective representative on the international stage. In the absence of a political solution, the international community owes it to Palestinians to ensure that UNRWA remains operational amid one of the worst humanitarian crises in its history.
Yeah, what's the point of view of the author.
That UNRWA is just patching symptoms rather than like root causes, and nobody's been able to work on a durable solution to the root cause of Palestinian dispossession, or the fact of being a refugee.
Anything else from the author's perspective that anyone here is noticing, or is there just anything in general that you noticed recently in the article?
Well, I guess one puzzle would be, what political solution is absent? What are they talking about? In the absence of a political solution, is that an option? Has somebody proposed one before?
In the absence of a political solution, is that an option? Has somebody proposed one before? Is that right? Or am I missing something from that?
Well, I mean, what they said was in the absence of a political solution. So it's a puzzle. Like, does that mean nobody's come up with a political solution in 75 years? Really? That's hard to believe.
Well, are you saying, I'm curious now, when you say that, do you mean that like nobody's coming with a political solution in 75 years? Are you saying about Israel, Palestine, the international community, or more so the article?
I'm just noticing the article talks about an absence of a political solution after talking about 75 years of dispossession, and the author is saying, as a result of an absence of political solutions, that the international community owes it to Palestinians.
I see what you're saying. That they owe it to the Palestinians. That it's absurd after 75 years that this hasn't gotten done yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really is the the context from which October 7th happens. It's all related, right? It's just a continuum of history. But this article is I think is very helpful in talking about some of the dire straits that the Palestinians have been in.
Yeah, it's so you find that it's helpful in how it expresses the dire straits of the Palestinians.
Yeah, I mean, like, how bad does it have to be to have a relief and workers' aid association with 30,000 employees? I mean,
Yeah,
that's like a small army, and
yeah, and then to let them go, or to try to break it up, and
close it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Dash, are there any puzzles that is there anything, as you've been reading this and exploring this together with us, is there anything you've been noticing too, or anything that's been puzzling you in this?
No, not really. Only that after one of you guys said that there's an absence of political solution, there hasn't been one for 75 years. That kind of like made me like think of past solutions that were brought, but like I guess were never like took into consideration, like like the Israelite, or was it the Israel Stein solution?
Oh, the Israel side. Can you say more about that?
Well, you know how they wanted a ceasefire, like even before the October 7th attack.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was like somebody from Libya who considered it or something. Like a one state for the two
The two peoples.
the two peoples.
Yeah. So you're talking about thinking about the solution of like a one state solution, as a possible. You're saying that's something that's been talked about previously in the context. Yeah. And so then this was the part that you've kind of been a little bit excited about. And maybe this is where we could explore this a little bit together tonight. And then when we're done exploring this, that's maybe where we'll leave it for tonight. Does it sound good to everybody?
Sure.
So now the first person who wants to read this just feel free to take it.
After you.
UNRWA originated as a makeshift solution to a thorny problem. After the creation of the State of Israel in 1948 displaced around 750,000 Palestinians, the UN General Assembly, UNRWA, passed two critical resolutions. The first resolution, 194, enshrined Palestinian refugees' right to return to their homes and established the UN Conciliation Commission for Palestine to promote a durable solution for Palestinians. The following year, Resolution 302 set up UNRWA as a subsidiary organ of UNRWA to conduct direct relief and works programs that would incentivize Palestinians to settle in neighboring countries. What's everybody noticing, whether you're in the audience or in the room? What are you noticing about what we've just been looking at here, or what we just read?
There's like makeshift solutions to supporting the Palestinian refugees.
Yeah. So you noticed that the solutions for the Palestinian refugees are makeshift.
Yeah, like it sounds like there's still like you know like drawing it on the board.
You said, wait, what was the last thing you said? You said it's like they're
like still planning,
Mm-hmm. Like still planning.
Yeah.
I noticed that 750,000 Palestinians in 1948 were displaced, and that was a question that we'd been talking before about. Let's see if I can pull this up about the Resolution 194 and then also we have the Resolution 302.
That's like 200 people a day leaving. If it was, to get to 750,000 in a year.
Mm-hmm.
No, wait. Sorry. 75. How much was it? 750,000? Or 75,000? No, it was 750,000 in a year. So if I divide 750,000 by 365 days, that's over 2,000 people a day.
Yeah. And Oscar P. 1922 says, sounds like they want to move to other places. And Yeah, I'm wondering by that if you mean that when we read again, coming back to this, and we're reading the following year, Resolution 302 set up UNRWA to conduct direct relief and works programs that would incentivize Palestinians to settle in neighboring countries. I wanted to just clarify, are you saying that 302 sounds like 302 is trying to make it like they want to move to other places, or are you saying 302 is trying to encourage them to move to other places?
Yeah, incentivize. It seems like a key word there.
Yeah. Jay, would you like to read the next paragraph?
Yeah. The fact that UNRWA endorsed, is that the right paragraph?
That's the right paragraph. Yeah.
All right. And you pronounce it UNRWA, right?
That's how I'm pronouncing it. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Sure.
I don't usually hear people say UNRWA for the UN General Assembly, but like, I have to admit, like, I'm not like a big UN insider or anything like that. You know, like I'm one of the people that's trying to figure out what's going on with everybody else. I guess we're all. In fact, I also notice here in the chat, Mary Ann Osterbrink says, "Hi, still a vehicle to get rid of the residents in end sentence. Some colonizer entities put that part in."
Yeah.
And I think I might have noticed that just when we were still in this part here.
Welcome, Maple.
Yeah, welcome, Maple. Welcome back. And Jay says also, yes, Salam. Nice to see everyone here. I have to go. And OMG, I see the fundraiser goal has been reached. Oh my gosh. So let me just draw our attention to this for half a second. Thank you, Jay, for pointing that out. This is amazing.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we just raised, if you all this is very meta here. Yeah, we just raised, if you all we just raised $1,000.89. And thank you to our donor here. Thank you very much.
That's gonna go to some code whatever staffer.
Yeah, well, this is going to help us actually. We can right now hey Semi, welcome. Yeah,
here.
welcome.
Hi.
Yeah, and thank you so much to, let's see, yeah, thank you so much for the donation. I'm just checking out right now. Let's see. Well, anyhow, I'm trying to thank the donor and look it up, but I'm a little bit new on the Twitch stuff, and so it's tricky to confirm. Though I think, here we go. Yes, thank you so much, Jay. Thank you. I was trying to confirm you. But I also didn't want to embarrass you either in case you were being subtle. So thank you. Thanks so much. And Jay also says hi to Semi too. Or hey to Semi.
Semi put up 2 hearts.
Yeah. And just so folks know, we've got the Jay in here, which is he's also known as Dash. And then there's the Jay who's outside, who's also sometimes the host of the show. So okay. should we read a little bit more of this now, as we're getting towards the end here? I think there's some nice commentary here that we could read. Does somebody want to read this next part?
Okay. The fact that UNRWA endorsed two such differing approaches just a year apart reflects the deadlock that diplomats faced. Months after the Conciliation Commission for Palestine was founded, it came to a dead end. The only solution acceptable to Palestinians was return, a solution that Israel would not consider. Diplomats had to come up with an alternative. Wow, what a pickle to be in. Oh my gosh. 750,000 displaced refugees in other countries. And Israel said, nope, they can't return. We need to have a country. And they had a lot of momentum for having a new country. I mean, they've been wanting it for like 50 years. And they finally got one.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm hearing you say that that must have been so frustrating being so short apart, and then Israel says no, even though Israel just had so much momentum and success. And I'm wondering what it was that you noticed that points to Israel in that, or what, or is that part of a piece of like, because we could also go into the history of it, right? Like, as well.
Well, I mean, in order to establish Israel in 48, you know, the Nakba, the catastrophe, I think I was just reading, Israel would not accept a solution, which was Resolution 193 or 94 about people's right to return, Palestinians, refugees' right to return to their homes. And
Yeah.
I'm sure Israel did not vote for that resolution.
Yeah. Now, so I hear you saying that you believe Israel did not vote for that resolution.
Well, actually, they may not have been a member state yet, because this was the process of them becoming a state, right? And then I guess after you're a state, then you can join the UN General Assembly, I guess.
So yeah, so you're wondering, or you believe that they were, would you say likely not to? Would you say likely not to have been part of it at that point, or what can we point to, kind of, like looking in the history of the subject, right? Like, now you and I do know we've both been reading Nura Erakat, and this is a pitch for everybody, right? We've both been reading Nura Erakat, and so there's a lot said in that, and that's part of what I'm saying too, is just for people in the audience. For people in the audience, they may not all know the whole history of it, and so if we want to bring that in, we should also maybe think about exploring it. Not even necessarily today, but we want to leave ourselves the room to explore it, as well.
There's a good segment for next time, because at some point, I think in the next paragraph or two, we might get to like a place where it says UNRWA was set up to do something which only a political solution based in law could solve, or something like that. You
Yeah,
that?
right. And also you pointed also to the point in this article that it says a solution that Israel would not consider as well, too. That's kind of foundational to it.
I was trying to contextualize that.
Yeah. And so I want to ask other folks too. And I see Maple says Israel is a rapacious predator. and says, Maple, tell us what you really think. Do you want to? Yeah. So I'm hearing Maple. I'm hearing you say that Israel is a rapacious predator, and then I'm hearing you also say, tell us what you really think. Is that in a perspective of what the UN really thinks, or can you say more about that?
She probably is asking us to tell what we really think.
And if you're asking, oh, so you're saying, yeah, it's a joke, like, I don't hold back. Well, yeah, and we don't want you to hold back. We want you to be yourself here. We want everybody to be themselves here, and to express ourselves, and to listen to each other and hold each other's ideas. And so that's just, it's tricky, right? Like, we're living in really complex times. I'm Jewish, and I have a lot of family who are Jewish, and like, this is not something that, as a Jewish person, I ever want to see what's going on right now. But there's also, it's like, I think it's tricky because a lot of people come to this from different perspectives. And there's a lot of complexity in this time. And I see very often, for instance, when we have these conversations, we have to deal with the complexity of this, right? Like, there's been so much loss in the history of all peoples involved, whether you're a person who is a Jewish immigrant, and that doesn't necessarily mean that what's going on in Israel is right at all, but there's complexity here, and different people approach the situation with different complexity. And I think if we're trying to deal with human rights, we have to take the risk of trying to have a complex, messy conversation. But like, a lot of times we're afraid to, because we people to think all kinds of things about us. So I hear you saying it's not about religion, it's about land stealing way back. Bad stealers making it about religion now to get away with terrible political action. Well, I do think that there's definitely, yeah, and I hear you saying that from your point of view, that this is about land stealing, and that making it about religion maybe is a way to avoid the land stealing component. And
totally,
I'm wondering if you think I'm suggesting it's about religion. If you think that's my point of view, I'm wondering if you think that's my point of view. And for instance, like, if you were curious what I think, like, I currently we're reading Nur Erakat, which is all about the Nakba. So, and for me personally, the city that my ancestors lived in, Monastir, was completely wiped clean and ethnic cleansed by the Nazis. Everybody was sent to Treblinka. And when I see the Nakba, I think of the Nakba and what's happening to the Palestinians in Gaza in the same way. So that's just my personal opinion, of course. We can all look at the facts, but that's how I think about it, and it's a very deeply personal thing to me. Yeah, Tim.
When I was pointing to the Israeli perspective about Resolution 194 a minute ago, in that paragraph where they were like, and no, that's not an acceptable solution.
Yeah.
I was referring to the 50-year buildup of finally landing a country when, like, I was trying to connect the founder of Zionism, Theodore Herzl's letters from the 1890s time when he was looking for a home for his people. That's the point of Zionism. And he was shopping around this idea that, hey, maybe, we could get out of your hair a little bit if we just had a home. And they were thinking about Argentina and another country, maybe in Africa, southern parts of Africa, and Palestine. And when he said, the indigenous people who live there, they're going to have to part with their land so that we can move in. Of course, at the time, they weren't thinking about the numbers coming out of the Holocaust after World War II that sort of set the stage for the solution to be the Nakba, from the West, to impose 750,000 refugees leaving, forced migration out of Palestine. But that was like the goal in its pure sense, is to find a home, and who wouldn't want a home, right? and in that time period, everybody was colonizing everybody, and so it was like, yeah, we'll just kind of fit in here a little bit, and nobody will notice anyway because everybody's already there. In the like, he was just writing to one of the colonizers. I mean, just
yeah. So I'm hearing you say that, like, when Theodore Herzl was writing, that his point of view was that by immigrating away from Europe, that the Jewish people could get away and get out of their hair, as you said, and that I'm trying to reflect it all back and try to hold it all together.
I mean, at the time, there wasn't very many Jewish
right.
people.
Oh, yeah.
looking for
Yeah.
a home.
Let me see if I can. Okay. Now, thank you. Let's see if I can remember the rest. So then you had talked about how like after the Holocaust, there were a lot of people who were refugees at that point, which created this incredible problem and this view of colonizing Palestine, and this view of taking over and then pushing people out. And I'm also noticing that Maple is saying as well, Zionist brainwashing, especially American Jewish youth, that it's theirs. I watched Israelism film about that. Yeah, there's also this. So I'm hearing you say that like there's a lot of indoctrination going on in the United States about Jewish people, like, for instance, like the Birthright Israel program. I can think of that example. That American Jewish youth own Israel and they have a right to immigrate there. And then I also heard you say chosen people, WTF. And so you're talking about the religion Judaism, and that because there's a traditional notion in Judaism of Jewish people being chosen, that that's an absurd notion, or that maybe it's to Zionism in some sense, or explains it, and that you're outraged at it. And then I also noticed you saying, true, Tim, whoever has the biggest sabers, guns, gets others' lands. Now American money, weapons is the saber. And so you're hearing Tim, and I heard Tim too, that it's a colonial thing, that the people with the biggest weapons in colonialism win. So I'm hearing all this, and I think that what I would say is that I would also remind you that I have, when my great-grandfather moved here, which I acknowledge, like the United States of America as a whole is a colonial project as well. So we're all involved in that project, right? And so in this unfortunate sense, this is something that we cannot just say is right or is just. It's a complex, messy situation, right? And in the same way, like for instance, when my great-grandfather moved over here, his brother moved to Palestine as a subject of the Ottoman Empire. And Jews and Muslims were intermarrying at that time. And I've heard a lot mentioned also about the point of view, the perspective. One thing that I think of when we talk about this is just me. We could maybe look at the sources more too, but and explore this. But I want to point to the problem that when David Ben-Gurion was founding Israel, that he saw that it would be a Jewish minority, and maybe we can explore soon the different, like for instance, in Noura Erakat, she talks about, which we've been reading, she talks about how Palestinians were got out of their homes with loudspeakers, with violence, all kinds of things, right? We're talking about 750,000 refugees. And so I think that's really important. I also noticed one thing I would say as like a Jewish person, when you say chosen people, WTF, I think it's really complex, right? Because for some people, that's that's a religion that they've grown up in, and if somebody thinks they're the chosen people, it's really complex from a religious point of view. But I think when somebody says that religiously, I don't know that necessarily even means Zionism per se. You know, it's not necessarily the people chosen.
Isn't that part of the Christian story too? I mean, you have to have Judaism, from which Christ came from, and Bethlehem and all the rest of it. So it's part of probably, half the world's religious story.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's a really difficult thing to unwind. Like I personally, like, I think that's a really interesting thing to unwind too, and I think we're going to keep unwinding it. We want to learn about everybody's point of view and give everybody's idea. It's fair hearing about this, and I know I've taken a lot of the space reflecting back people's points of view. But is there anything folks want to explore in these last, like we've explored a lot tonight, and this has been a really interesting conversation, and I want to just check in with everybody. How's everyone doing? And are there any friends? Is anyone noticing anything? Are there any puzzles?
Yeah, a couple of things. I don't know if we got to the point where UNRWA was piecemealed together to solve, like to just cover a patch up of a larger systemic problem that has like its roots in the justice system and international courts. But I feel like this reading has led us to potentially picking up Noura Erakat, the legal scholar, and try to cover some of her work next time.
So I'm hearing you point out that.
I mean, she takes it back to, decades before, and the struggles, legal struggles and violent political struggles in Palestine from the early 1920s or late 1917 area, the Balfour Mandate period. And so, we could cover that next time. Maybe we're set up to look at that.
Yeah, it almost begs the question now. And Maple also says, many people, think the Bible is fictional. Maybe Jesus a good dude. Yeah, a lot of people believe that. Absolutely. What was it? Marshall Rosenberg, the inventor of nonviolent communication, wrote a song about a homeless person who stayed with his grandmother, who he viewed not as like a religious figure, but maybe that's Jesus. And I the last time I read that, I cried. I thought it was so beautiful. I think there's and Maple says lots of misogyny and violence. You mean like in the history of religion?
Totally. Lots of justification for having authority to kill. Oh, in the Bible, she said. Lots of violence in the Bible. Yeah, killing your sons to prove a point for God.
Well, yeah. So I hear you asking, what's the point of, killing a child to prove to God your devotion? Now we could raise some puzzles about that, because actually, one thing that you notice in the binding of Isaac is that there's actual like textual like repetitions that are awkward, and so scholarship for a long time has thought that the book was censored. Or that passage was altered, so we may not even know what really took place in that passage, because there were some satirists who weren't necessarily the most religious people either. People think that the Book of Job is a heretical book, potentially a book that's actually critical. And I hear Maple saying that violent, bad, controlling old men wrote it. And well, there's also the theory of documentary hypothesis, where many people have proposed that the earliest author, who's only one of many, because many of the authors afterwards are complete sexists, but the earliest author may have been a woman. But the books are all intertwined with each other in the Torah. So to like actually restore the original author, you have to figure out which passages are hers, if it is a woman, because it's just a speculation. But that's been speculated too.
Wow.
How are we doing on time?
Well, we can stay as long as we want, but we have been here for 2 hours and 17 minutes.
This might be a record.
Well, the people come and go, but we haven't been talking of Michelangelo. But yeah. So should we kind of, do we want to say anything about where we might go next time, or what's coming up? We've got at the beginning of the next month, we're going to continue with Nora Erekat, and I think we're going to, Tim, do we want to reread the beginning section again first for new folks, or the beginning section in the first chapter? That's going to be coming up though. So if you want to join us for Nora Erekat, the Palestinian law scholar, Justice for Some, that's something. And
it's really good. I mean, she really goes back to original struggles legally, and what's documented, and totally blows my idea about the law being a fixed known quantity. She talks about it as a tool written by the powerful for the powerful to do what is legally necessary, like politically necessary too, and how politics and the legal system work together as a kind of tool for like controlling. It's
yeah. Well, she writes it. Yeah. So I'm hearing you say that she's writing about how the powers that be used as a tool.
They wrote it
for controlling.
Yeah,
Yeah, and one thing I also noticed in that section, as well in that book, is that we're at the end now, and so instead of introducing new stuff, let's check in with folks about everything we've talked about. Dash, do you have any other thoughts for tonight, or anything else that you noticed in what we're reading or learning, or any points of view?
I want to join your reading circle, and the Bible is pretty crazy. I got to the Corinthians in the Orthodox Bible,
Mm-hmm.
and it's crazy how people believe in the Holy Spirit, and
So
and,
yeah, so for you, it's like thinking about like a belief in a Holy Spirit. That's a little bit that's a lot for you.
yeah, because people can do a lot of things, like in the Ethiopia. When I read about that one thing, that I think it was like a messenger, and I don't know, it just like made me think about all these crazy things,
So so you're talking about like in reading in other texts, like in Ethiopian text, you're saying,
yeah,
that like there were things in there that were very different for you.
yeah.
And I see also, Maple said here, Bible writers, except some Psalms, are like the elected officials of U.S., Israel, many NATO countries. You all know lots of history. Good. I had 12 years of nuns who didn't teach us anything real of history.
Wow. So the nuns just focused on the Bible and maybe didn't contextualize it, or didn't try to tie it back into politics or history or something.
I read that in the axioms of moderate baptism, that one of the ideas that was proposed is that when you read the Bible, you should only read it from your own personal experience. And if you can't validate anything in the Bible from your own personal experience, then you can't accept it as true until you found it in your own experience.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But anyhow, that is not an endorsement of any religion, by the way.
Hey, BA.
Yeah.
You said you read the Torah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you drop a link to which Torah you read? I'd like to.
My favorite. Do you want my favorite translation?
Yeah, because I know there's like a few of them out there.
So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Jewish Publication Society, Tanakh, which is the Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. That's the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, and hold on, pulling up a link for you. Torah, Nevi'im is the prophets, and Ketuvim is the writings. So, like for instance, the prophets would have Isaiah or Ezekiel in it, or Daniel, and the Ketuvim has like the Song of Songs, or the say the Book of Job. But the Jewish Publication Society is a translation both of the secular Jewish community and the religious Jewish community. So it's one of the only translations where they actually let heretical scholars that believe stuff like documentary hypothesis, that are Jewish scholars, translating the Hebrew Bible into English, but they're doing it. There has to be agreement between the religious and the secular and the heretics. So, but it's a larger Jewish body. It's not a religious Jewish body. And that's why sometimes, like in the Jewish perspective, we kind of bristle because when people say Judaism is a religion, because Judaism is a new religion, and the Jewish people have existed way longer than that. And we've had many religions. At the time of Jesus, there were many, many different ways you could be Jewish spiritually, and there's always been. And so, like, for instance, we often bristle at a notion that there's like one way to be Jewish religiously, and like we all disagree with each other. That's like the whole point, is that we're all in disagreement about stuff. So I see Maple says they had their own made up stuff, Mizzle, like limbo for unbaptized babies and other weird stuff. And then the Pope in the 90s decided no limbo, poof, gone. Where are those babies going to go? Yeah, I believe George Carlin has a bit about that too. So anyhow, this has been quite an adventure we've been on here tonight for 2 hours and a half.
Yeah, we had a couple of original sources of evidence about the culture of Gaza. I don't know if those links are still available for folks who joined the chat late, but we had some wonderful singing and defiance from Gazan children, recorded on April 4th and 5th. It was the Jabalia Girls Choir.
Yeah.
Should put a link to that. It's really inspiring.
I'm going to put a link for our source list here too. So if there's stuff we're missing, maybe we can add anything that's missing into the source link for this week. And then,
a few resources on culture, maybe.
Yeah, we can. Well, you know how we have our link here. I'm going to put it in the chat. And if there's stuff we're missing, you can comment here and we'll add stuff we're missing. We're trying to describe as many perspectives as possible so that we can understand all the different points of view. So even though we have stuff here that we may not agree with, we're still trying to represent all the points of view. I'll just share with you for a second so you can see this. I shared it, but then I closed it by accident. Let me just bring it up really quickly, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah,
here we go.
Okay.
Yeah, so this has got links. It's got different clips from the show. And
we're going to add the cultural links in there.
Yeah, and we'll add the cultural components.
Yeah.
So,
is
there anything? Yeah, go ahead.
The movie was really good too. I don't know if y'all saw that. We did a little trailer for a 1990 movie filmed in Gaza called Tale of the Three Jewels, and it's featuring this 12-year-old boy, a Palestinian, in Gaza, and it's just really beautiful. We watched the first 4 minutes and just set the stage for the kind of apartheid conditions or something. It was 1990, so maybe it wasn't apartheid yet, but it looked pretty bad what we were seeing. So that link we shared already in the chat, but we could put it in the sources and then you'd have it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch the rest of it.
Yeah, this has been really great tonight. If there's nothing else, then thank you so much, everybody who's come tonight. This has been really great. And
thanks for having us.
Yeah, no, this is really beautiful. And I feel like we really got into stuff tonight. It was good. Did everybody learn something?
Yeah.
I did, for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for paying attention with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Maple. Thank you so much. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Dash. This has been really great.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure to be here with everyone. Thank you.
See you next time.
We'll see you next time.
Forgot the name.